So last year we took the tough decision to sunset the hand-painted jute bags. And in one sense it feels like it was a lifetime ago. But in reality, it was 4 months ago. So what we're going to discuss today, I am conscious there is this interest in duality and contradiction in. We went through that pain. We let an amazing set of people go. We spoke to our audience. We let them know we're not doing these bags anymore. And roll forward 4 months. There is a fair discussion point, and that's the contradiction, that we should perhaps reconsider that decision and bring them back. The reason for that, well, the reasons for that are manyfold. One is sales are tough, and there is a reality that we're fighting this sales challenge with one hand tied behind our back. We have one of our historic best-selling products that we still have the capability to do in-house. We still have stock in a storeroom in the business. The product pages are set up and are good to go. And right now, thousands of people per month go to those product pages and see that it's out of stock. We get people messaging us on social media. We get people dropping into our care inboxes asking us if this product is available or if it can be brought back. So on that hand, you could almost say from a business perspective, it's obvious what the decision should be. But as a company, one of the things I'm really proud of is we're human, and we do deeply think about the decisions we make and the implications of those decisions. And with the jute bags, we have the implication to our audience that we may have lied, or it may have been some marketing thing, which was certainly not the case. So we may let down some of those customers by relaunching it, or lose some trust through that process. In addition to that, there are customers who received the bag, and in there is a certificate that says this is the last jute bag. And so for those customers, there's a value to that, and there's a moment to that. And so by relaunching them, you may take some of that away. So I do think it's important that we think about this, and no decision has been made, nor will be made until we've gone through a process. And I am on the fence about this thing, as I am with most. But I think it's worth discussing. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll go around the room, go Claire, Tiff, and then you, Jem. And obviously a bit of a bombshell, but it'd be good to get your honest take on this.
Okay, so it's a very difficult one for me, because obviously when we discontinued them in December, that was a really, really difficult conversation, because emotionally I have an umbilical cord to these bags for the rest of my life. So that conversation was hard, and then you think about the staff, it makes it even harder. Within that process, I've gone out to our entire community, as me, as real as I am, with the tears, because it wasn't a play, it wasn't put on. That was real emotion, that something I created and that we grew has gone. You know, it was an emotive time for me, and a lot of people were like, please don't do it, it's the best thing, you know. But we did it anyway. So I kind of feel like, for me, it's hard because there are all those customers that have bought the last edition, which technically now couldn't or possibly couldn't be the last edition. So, like you say, where do they stand? Are we doing them a disservice by re-releasing them? It makes that purchase null and void, and it was a direct, these are going. You know, we can't facilitate these anymore. So for me, it's hard because I don't want to let down anyone in the community that's purchased and thought this is the final thing, and for Christmas I'm going to buy my Auntie Dorothy or my mum one because that's it, it's final, they get a certificate and no more. I don't want to upset those people, but I also don't want to upset the people that do still contact us and say, but where are, you know, they're the best thing ever and I need a new one. I'm sorry, they've gone. So I'm letting those people down that still want them and they're not there. So for me, I'm a little bit like you. I'm on the fence because I'm thinking of every single aspect. And what also concerns me is we bring them back, and what if we don't sell any? Do they then go again? So I think if we make that decision, it's something we need to sort of be held accountable to and say, we'll do them in this way and it facilitates that, so we know that they have a shelf life as such and we can facilitate orders without overbearing the business.
I agree.
So that's my take on it, which is always going to be an emotive
So it should
one.
be. So it should be. There's emotion in the products. That's why
Yeah.
customers love them. And again, we're a brand that's human. We literally have little humans in all the things that we produce. It's right that we take a minute to think about it. Because some people just write off and go, look, you can't win with all the people all the time.
Yeah.
And therefore, business dictates more sales are needed. We can turn that on quickly and make people happy. It is what it is. And I think in reality, things are more nuanced than that. And if you can think them through, whatever decision you make, you can at least make, whether it's a relaunch, a better marketing campaign that is sensitive and inclusive of all those things that you thought through, which will only give you better results because you bring people with you. Or you may decide, actually, it's not for us. And that's why I'm on the fence with this. There is a world where we relaunch this product, which would be limited in fashion, and it does well, fantastic. But equally, we know that the sales challenge is bigger than just jutes. And we want to grow and we want to scale as well. So it's not just a challenge, it's the opportunity. And therefore, this product, because of its unique nature, which is part of the pull to bring it back, is not scalable. Because the moment that demand drops, even in a small amount, it's not machines, it's humans that do every aspect of that product. And those humans then have their work impacted. And that's the big scale challenge with this product. So if you bring it back, you have to do it in a way that you can manage those peaks and those troughs and give stability to the team that does that. But equally, we still have the challenge of where does the growth come from? Which will come from innovation, will come from new product development that can be scaled. And so there is a version of the world that says, like, even though it's minimal effort, just focus on the growth opportunity and the new product development. But over to you, Tiff.
I think when I heard my initial immediate thoughts were, yes, bring it back. And that all stems from when I think of, or if I tell somebody I work for Toxic Fox / ClaireaBella, the way that I get people to understand what the business is I say the hand-painted jute bags.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know them. And that immediately clicks. And then the next sentence, yeah, but we don't do them anymore. So I think my initial thought when it was told, I was like, yes, because it is us, it is our brand, it is what kind of started us, it's how we became who we are. But a lot of me weighs with Claire and her theory behind it and her reasons behind her sitting on the fence of it all. Because yeah, it will be upsetting customers that were thinking it was the end. But then again, how many of those customers are there in terms of all of our customers? We might be shocked. We might get a reaction of, thank God they've come back. There might only be a few that are annoyed. But I think what would be good is to bring them back in a way that, like we're saying, is limited, and maybe have input from our customers of how they want it to be designed, and also what makes us stand out and what I've not seen out in anywhere else is the hand-painted aspect. There's nothing like we do it out there at all. So it is very unique to us. So it is something that makes us stand out and then might bring more customers to us. I don't know. Initial feeling, yes, bring it back. But with the understanding that, we have to do it carefully.
Yeah.
And maybe differently.
Yeah. Gemma.
interesting one. It is an interesting one because, yeah, looking at how many people do look for that product. I think when last just taking a little bit of dive, it was like around 3,000, something like that from the start of the year. They're searching at least like a jute bag kind of tip. So you can see that traffic is still there, but that comes off the back of the fact that it's a very well-known product. It's got a lot of organic kind of history against it. You know, the amount that's gone behind it, TV ads, that kind of thing. So the exposure and brand awareness around that product is so vast that even when we kill it off, you're going to get, you know, people that'll kind of be searching for it. There does lie a challenge because, and a risk that we don't necessarily want one brand just associated with one, because if something happens to that product, i.e. with the jute bag, it does kind of leave you a bit open. It will help with the revenue. I mean, you know, look, since the start of the year, revenues have just been dropping off, and every single day we are losing money. Every single month we're losing money. It will help to add, you know, say if we're doing a 10 per day, we're going to be selling them, I don't know, £40. It's going to help a little bit each day, but it may still work out as a loss, just maybe not that big of a loss, just depending upon what the base rate is. So it's helping to stop the bleeding, what we're going through for sales. On the other side of it is that that line can't be scaled, so it's not going to fix the issue, it's just going to help a little bit whilst we figure out what is that next hero line, because I've been looking for a bag product to fill the jute bag hole that has been left. Obviously launching them is going to help just to fill that void whilst we figure out the next one. But I do understand the emotional side against, you know, telling the audience that it was over, and it was because it was over, it had to be over, we literally could not afford to do that bag. So we did have to end it. There was nothing kind of, you know, falsified around that. Bringing them back at the shorter run feeds the production team, because sales low, workload low, we need to boost that up. That is something that could help. It would be a question for the audience of how many people would be dead set against it. You said it was over, that's it, we don't want to see it again. As other people, oh well, I was searching for that bag too, actually. Great news. And it would be good to get those sides of the stories from the customer, but my gut feel is that we need something to help sales immediately, because every single day we're just losing money. If that's something that's going to help, fantastic. It doesn't mean that's the end of it. There's still a lot of work to be done, because even with introducing jute bags back, we're still losing. Yeah. So it just helps it, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, that's why it's not a silver bullet.
No.
But I think there's also a case to be made. There's very few things in business that are silver bullets. So things tend to be more like Lego bricks, and therefore, from where we currently are, this is just another brick to help build up that sales wall. And it's whether this is the right brick to place. That I think we need to decide.
Weird, but there are you know, moral things that we do need to consider around it. But for me right now, it's like, I need something to plug this hole that we've got in sales, you know. And we know that product works in terms of selling. It's you know, we can launch so many different products, you know, that we have done over the years, and some of them, you know, go off flying high and then just drop next week. It's very difficult to find a product that can sustain, and it can drive volumes and sustain. And when you've got a product like that, when it's got good margin, because you know you can mark them as cheaply as you want, you'll sell hundreds of them, but you're not going to make any money off it.
Busy fool.
There's so many things that have to line up for a product to work holistically, both for production, for sales,
for the marketing contribution.
Yeah, there's just so many things you have to take into consideration. The jute bag is a fantastic product. it's fantastic because it's hand painted, but with that does come complexities every year. That's going to get expensive. Not necessarily the product in terms of like the base product itself, but in terms of wages and things like that. Like every year that goes up. So that will always be putting pressure and pressure. So it's a fantastic product, but when it comes to the scaling of it, that is where there's just those challenges that lie. So we obviously won't be able to do what we did last time. We can't sell these as a mass new product. It's got to be carefully managed so that we're not just relaunching it just to then find ourselves in the same position again where, we can't sustain it anymore. But I do think it will help, at least in the short term, to just try and provide a little bit of a buffer between what we're kind of losing in sales.
Definitely.
I know, like, a decision's not being made and it's just a discussion. But I think for me, one of the things, I mean, if we did go down that road, we would have to keep the price of it as it is and not think, well, we've only sold X this week, so let's bottom. I don't think we can do that anymore because obviously it's such a high value product in terms of the cost to make it. But it's only feasible if we keep it at the price that it needs to be at to be able to facilitate both the customers, the community, and the business.
Oh, yeah, I mean, when it was at 20
It's,
off, and it was, I think, 25% margin, which, you know, you can't do that.
No.
But the reason those promotions were ran is because we needed to sell volume to keep, you know, to feed the painters.
Exactly.
Which meant that we were able to get the volume through, but we would still sometimes make a loss because the margin was just so low. We've taken away that challenge and the fact that we've actually got people in production that are the painters, you know, but they're doing different things now. But because sales are so low, there's no work to give them. And maintaining that higher margin, I think it'd probably be like, you know, the high 40s, 49%, I'm going to just throw out there. At least then it is an alignment with our other products and where it needs to be, because it has to contribute to sales as well as to the volume side as well. We can't really put ourselves in the 23, 25%.
And I think the reality is, like, look, we're having this conversation. And again, I go back, most businesses wouldn't. There'd be a business case for it and then decisions made purely on the business case. So I think it's good that we're having this conversation. We appreciate the benefit of it, the strong interest, it would sell units. But we also appreciate there's limited capacity for supply. So that means it will support a higher price point. And I think it's super important if we do bring the product back that we communicate the value of that product. At every stage, a human is involved in crafting it. So they go into a machine that just prints something and it's, you know, spat out the other end and packed. It's a human that will make sure that that product is prepped with the design the customer has created. It then goes to an artist who will literally hand paint every component. It will then be hand finished with glitter and diamantes and bows. It is a time-intensive, deeply human product, designed by a human, created for the human, for that human. And so I think one of the things that's really interesting in this product is we see that, and clearly that resonates with a strong number of people. Not for context, for 20,000 units a year, which it did in its sort of peak period, went up to 30,000 in 2013, but certainly for 10,000 units a year. And therefore, I think we would keep the price the same. We would have stronger margin produced from it, because you need to make sure that there's enough coverage in the money that that product makes, not just for that one bag, but because there will be times where you get peaks and troughs. You just do with every product cycle. But other products, if the machine's not running, it's not really costing you anything. The cost is capitalised, and it's only expense as you use it. With a human, that person is there. The cost is there. It's a very real cost. And so that, just to address that, we would sell it at a higher price point, which understands there's only limited supply. And I think those two things would map through. So I think what we need to do, like the benefits of product, the reason we've been having this conversation is because it's been brought up because we've been receiving emails through customer care. And so like customers are asking for it, then we send checks, people are asking on social as well. And then we looked at the data and we see people go to the product page. So it's like, there is a conversation, awkward and tough to be had. The con is like,
Excuse me.
we went through the process last year and people have been affected by that decision. I think what we need to do is take some time to speak to customers and get a flavour for it. Because as Tiff said before, we might be surprised and they're like, hey, yeah, bring it back, baby. We're really ready for this product to be back. Or we might find that the reaction is what we fear. And then we can take that and use that as part of the decision-making process. So I think that should be the next step, is thinking about how we put that forward to the audience, and then let's see what they say.
I think we need an element as well of however we're articulating it to the community, how we address those customers that bought that final edition with the certificate. I think there needs to be an element in there, because I know myself, if I'd bought something like that and thought, this is that, I'd expect it to be, this is that. So that concerns me slightly. But I think, like you're saying, if we pitch it to our audience and say, what do you think? We're going to get those people, if they aren't in agreement with it because they've bought a final edition, that will hopefully come forward and articulate that to us. Because that's my concern, that there are customers there that potentially bought the last, and now we're saying, well, actually, potentially they're not the last, and it's how that affects people, because without the people, we don't have anything.
No.
And I don't, like any of us, want to upset anybody and think, well, hang on a minute, told one thing, do another thing. So I think, like you say, it's good to articulate to the audience and say, what's your opinion? How does this make you feel? Do you back it? Do you not?
I'm wondering whether, maybe the customers that are on social, and they're sharing their points of views, whether we could hold, a bit like, this morning meeting we had, like a Zoom, where we just have a conversation.
Like a town hall.
Yeah,
with people.
and just bring them in, just explain to them, like, this is a challenge that we've got, and it's a very real challenge, and we're trying to come out of this. What are your thoughts? Should we do it or should we not? Just so then we can share our problem with our customers and actually have a conversation, a one-on-one with them, and understand where grievances would lie, what would we need to do to bridge, if we are to bring them back, to bridge a relaunch, but bring them involved as well, to help us curate if that's the direction that things are going to travel. Or if we don't go down the jute bag, what other products, or what are you hungry for? It just comes to platform.
So I think we need to think about how we ask the question and what community components we can build so we can get as many opinions as possible to shape that. And then I think we can then leverage that to make a decision. What I guess why I keep pausing is there's this tension in me, I think, as a founder and as an entrepreneur, that considers my experiences outside of setting up Toxic Fox. And so if I'm sat in a boardroom in another company, I sometimes ponder, do we overthink it? Like, when we made the decision last year, I remember making the call to Claire, I remember the meetings that went before that moment. For us, it was massive. Like, it was a huge decision that impacted us internally, emotionally, and a lot of the staff we've had for literally years, and with colleagues and friends. And it was huge. I remember going through that process and then launching it on social. And this is a product that sold over 300,000 units since launch. And it was muted. And I actually left that process disheartened, because it was like, people don't care. And in the end, like, we had to discount the product just to sell it off, just to keep people in work to the end of the Christmas period. And I was like, there's no way, when I was thinking this through, like, the problem is too many people are going to want it. We're not going to be able to service the demand because we had capacity. We couldn't change the team because of the fact we were sunsetting the product. So we had capacity for 5,000 units. We've done thank you events where we've sold 1,500, 2,000 units in a day. So I looked at data and I'm like, well, if our record number of jute bags sold in one day is just shy of 2,000, and I've got 5,000, which from September to December is nearly 4 months, we're going to let people down with this launch. In the end, we didn't even sell the quota.
No.
And so there is a big point in me that goes, do you end up overthinking it? Like, people don't care as deeply as we feel that they do. And it can be hard, I think, on social sometimes, because you can get a subset of people who are just like, they're ready to be angry at everything. And so, like, it can feel bigger than what it is. But I remember running ads, because we didn't think we was going to do ad spend, but we had to in the end. And I would guesstimate 20 to 30 comments. And I thought it would, again, even just leaving a comment, I thought the response would have been bigger, especially with the amplifications and more people seeing it through spend. And so there's a big part of me that says, like, the best brands in the world make decisions that are twofold. One is it a great product that people would love? And so if I test that against a jute bag, the answer is yes. It's just that is now a smaller subset, but we have, as a company, reorientated the production team so that team, which there was too much capacity, not enough demand, now has enough capacity to map to what the current demand would be. So it ticks that box. The other box is, as a company, does it create the financial value that it needs to? Well, yes, it ticks that because of the fact we've been able to bring the costs in alignment with demand. And the final piece is the best brands are able to excite their customers, because collaboration is super important, but innovation also is as well. And customers look to the brand. It's like, don't ask me to tell you what I want, because I don't know what I want until I see it, and it's your job to create the thing that I never knew I always wanted. And that's so true with the jute bag. Like, no human ever said before that, I would like to have a jute tote bag with a hand-painted character on it. But you created that, and then when they saw it, it was like, oh my God, I need that in my life. No one ever said they wanted a personalised beach towel with a giant character of them. It's a 5-foot beach towel, and yet we sold over 250,000 of them. Right, so our job is to innovate and excite customers. And that's why it's challenging when you go to customers and ask them, because they'll tell you, like, they'll answer the question like it's a school project, but they can't tell you what they don't know. And it's our job to inspire them.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I look at it and go, again, the jute bag, it does those things. So if it's ticking all of those boxes, and that final box, which is you can't make all the people happy all of the time. Whatever decision we make, we are going to let people down. And we know from the data, we're probably going to make, with the news, more people happy than we could possibly make unhappy, because we didn't sell that many final jute bags. So I would guarantee in a year, we would outsell what we sold as part of that last piece. But there's a human element, like, but they're still people. And like, is it just 1 for 1? So like, if the ratio is greater in favour of people who want it, well, they just win. But then there's a human element, but even though that number's small, that's still people. Or then do you go with, well, they spent money, so like, they get the upper hand. And so as a company, I think that's, and again, completely on the fence, just spitting it as I think it, like, that's what we need to decide, because we can do all of this, and we can get all these data points, and they're going to be super important, because they help bring context to all of those little nuances. But fundamentally, we're still going to have to make the decision. Yeah. We're going to let people down, either way we make that decision. So we need to think about what's important to us, and what is the deciding factor that means we either give us the green light or we keep it firmly on the red light. And in addition to that, going back to that beginning point, we still have to focus on innovation and growth.
This isn't going to...
It's not a silver bullet.
Personally, it's like a game show, ask the audience. We're going to have to ask the audience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But so let's take controversial political point, Brexit. Like, if it's 51-49...
It's still 51-49, so
that would
side, to me, that would be a decider.
Right.
But I'm more emotive than I am business head.
Yeah.
As you know, you're the business head, and I'm the one that goes, no. So I think my decision will always be an emotional one. So I kind of like, when you've spoken about it today, my instant reaction was, no, we've still, and then I think about it. But predominantly for me, I think we ask our audience.
Yeah, I say that goes without saying. I interestingly thought you'd say like you'd want to see a greater margin. So like that's too close. For us to go through that step, there has to be a clear majority that want it. So 70-30, as just a weird example, would be like, okay, that gives me some comfort that we're doing it. If it's 49-51, it's so close that like you're upsetting almost as many people as you're exciting.
Well, I totally agree. However, so say if it was 51 for and 49 against, I would still be going with the 51 for, because at the end of the day, we're a business and we want to survive. If this helps that cause, then we might have to go through a little bit of pain with the 49, but we've got to do it correctly. And we've got to articulate it to the audience. This is why we're doing it. We need to survive.
Question. It just pops in my head then. So say if it was like the 49% we're not wanting to launch it, but we go ahead and launch it, they're still possibly going to be sharing the kind of irate comments with us and the anger and that would have been shared if we hadn't have gone through a whole kind of vote thing. I'm just going to throw, just saying that, because in my mind I was thinking, well, getting them involved, they can see that, you guys made the decision, so that should, calm any issues. But then I was like, actually, they would still be.
There's always going to be somebody.
Yes,
there's always going to.
It's one of that. I don't think we're going. If it does happen, I don't think we're ever going to be able to satisfy those people that we're going to be angry, even if we put it to a vote that they're still going to be angry. And
that's why like there's part of me that I know, as I see the traffic, a lot of people, some people who watch the vlog will be from LinkedIn, and they'll be business owners, and they'll be going, what are you doing? Like, it's a business decision. You put your big boy, your big girl pants on, you make the tough decisions for the right reasons, and then it's all about execution. That should be the name of the game. If you spend too much time in this lane over here, then ultimately you'd never make a decision because you'd be in paralysis of the audience's response to that. You can't make people happy all of the time. However, my caveat to that is I actually think it is a superpower for a business to at least be conscious and considerate of the wider impact. And if you can widen that net and bring people along with you, I think it's this intangible component you build with people that builds brand value and that brings longevity and brings lifetime value. But I think it's just finding that right balance between those two components. And I think as a company we're getting better at that. And like I said before, the exploration of these things, if done in the right way, and this is just the first chat, so we need to really break down the work streams that we do if we're going to do that, will only make for a better decision and actually might be the catalyst for the inspiration for the next thing anyway. I think we'll only be richer for that experience, not worse off. But when it comes to making the decision, I think we have to have a clear plan for what we do with all that, and we don't just get lost in the data, because that can easily happen. So I think we have to make sure we're clear on the criteria for like what we're looking to satisfy, why we're looking to satisfy it, and then boom, we can make a decision, and that's going to be the focus.